In the continents where these things are worshipped, like Australasia and Africa, the Land Cruiser needs no introduction. But the amazing thing about these two here is they're in fact brand new. They look like they're straight out of the 80s, but Toyota is still making them. And here in Kent, there's a company bringing them in to the UK, and they're on sale right now. And better still, they're V8. They're diesel V8s, and these are the last of the V8s. So in this episode, I'm going to learn a bit more about the 70 series Toyota Land Cruiser, what makes them so damn indestructible, and possibly what makes these the most future-proofed off-roader of all time. I'm Jonny Smith. You're watching The Late Break Show.
This episode is proudly supported by Carly. Before we delve into the video, you're probably wondering what Carly is. Well, Carly is a vehicle diagnostic scanning tool that allows you to go inside the brain of your car and work out what is wrong with it and pinpoint the exact issue, so you can either repair it yourself or you can at least be better informed when you take it to a garage. It looks like this, and it plugs into your OBD2 port, which in the case of this borrowed BMW 420D is just down here. And it works via Bluetooth. So once you plug that in, you start the car up, and then you obviously download the app, and you use the app, and it uses Bluetooth to communicate. Now I've done this just before we started filming, so this car is showing 5 issues apparently, brings up the mileage and stuff like that. And if I go into diagnostics, it will tell me what is wrong with this car. Now what you can do at this point is you can either ignore these problems and just clear them and give the car a fresh bill of health, as it were, or you can choose to actively go into them and diagnose and repair the issue using the Smart Mechanic tutorial system, which allows you to actually do these things yourself and take the power back, especially on cars like this that are well under 15 years old and you need a computer to even go near the engine bay. So obviously, besides trying to diagnose and potentially solve up to 6,000 error codes on a car, you can go in and you can start personalizing and customizing your stuff using the coding system of the Carly. There's a couple of tricks I know that will work with this BMW. For example, some people find auto start stop really irritating. I can actually code it so that that permanently stays off when the car's first struck up. Other thing I quite like on the Carly device is you can get live engine data. So like in the old days where you had oil pressure gauge, oil temperature gauge, stuff like that, this will actually tap into all that information while the engine's running and driving, and you can save a file of all that stuff, all that geeky engine info. Carly works with most cars that have got an OBD2 port. If you want to go to their website now, go to mycarly.com. I have a discount code that you may be interested in. It's on the screen right now.
Travis, it's great to finally meet you. We've been talking for about a year about me coming to do this feature, because I'm just fascinated by the world of Land Cruisers. And I must say, before we get into too much of a deep chat, I've been trying to digest the bloodline, the family tree of Land Cruisers, but to me it's complicated.
I know.
I really can't understand it all. I know you've essentially got 3 strands of Land Cruiser. So you've got the station wagon series, the heavy duty series, and the light duty series.
That's correct.
Light duty series is like the Prado, I think they call it, is that right?
That's correct.
Heavy duty is this, like the 70 series.
That's correct.
Which we're going to focus on more in this video. And then you've got the station wagon series, which is more like the Amazon and the Colorado of the 90s.
Yes, yes.
And now we have that big 300 series.
We do indeed.
And I'm guessing, I know we've got a new Land Cruiser coming. But this is the thing, you say new Land Cruiser, there's like 4 new Land Cruisers of totally different.
It's confusing even more. Yeah, so you've got the 250, which should be on the UK market. So you won't need to come through any of us for that. You can actually go direct to Toyota for that. For the 300 series, you'll need to come through someone like ourselves, and we can bring that in for the client. So yes, there is a new shape of this coming out, and there's also now released an auto box. It's a slightly smaller engine. So if you want the V8, you still have to be old school and have the manual shift. But if you like your autos, you just got to downsize the engine to the new 2.8. Well, that's actually been around for quite a fair time, the 2.8, but it's new in the 70 series Land Cruiser.
So that's a Hilux engined.
Hilux Parado, been around, tested, trialed.
Yeah.
There's a big fan base for them.
So obviously people that are coming to you, you guys are specialising mostly in this, the 70 series.
Yes.
And I say 70 series because you've got a 79, which is the pickup.
That's correct. 76, which is the wagon, the 78, which is the troopy. The 79 comes in two forms, single cab and double cab.
Yeah.
And then obviously you've got the 71 series, which is a short wheelbase two-door version, which is cool and quirky. You know, like if you want to do a bit of off-roading and keep the wheelbase short, that brings back the old memories of the old KZJ 70 days we got here. So, but again, obviously, workability-wise, everybody's chasing a 79 series. Everybody's chasing the V8s, and now chasing the last of the V8s before they come to an end, which they are. October, they've predicted that it would be a complete cut for the V8.
So how did our HAS start? How did this quest to find and bring in good condition and new old school? Because basically these are models which Toyota clearly make, but they won't sell to us in the UK.
My granddad had a KZJ 70, so I was already a liking to the Land Cruisers. I just was unaware really how massive they was in Australia.
So you went over and worked in Australia to earn the money to buy the stock.
Yeah, so basically once we set up there and had everything, I would fly over and work there part-time, and then eventually we got ourselves a trailer, an old Patrol, 1996 Patrol. So
hang on, not a Toyota Land Cruiser.
I couldn't afford one at the time.
Oh right, okay.
And the Patrol, you know, for the fanboys, if it weren't for that old GQ Patrol, I don't think 99% of the Land Cruiser would be in the UK today. So
the heart of this business can thank a Nissan Patrol.
Yes,
brilliant.
Indeed.
The 2024 cars, which you've got on the boat coming in as we speak,
indeed,
have the circular headlights. Is that right?
That's correct. So basically, the cab in the rear is the same.
Yeah.
All they've done is change from the front here.
Yeah.
So basically, they've changed the wings bonnet and front section with the headlights and grille, the bumper.
You've talked about million-kilometre vehicles.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, you've personally had million-kilometre Land Cruisers.
Yeah.
So this engine and that, they are in that kind of proven...
Range. Yeah, my V8 made it to 713,000 miles before the timing chain snapped. So, which is quite significant, being that timing chain was never replaced.
Never?
Never.
So that did 700,000 miles.
Miles, yeah, 1 million kilometres touching. Wow. So, and all right, granted, we've been through some alternator starter motors, we've done a set of injectors, but general cosmetic serviceable items, that engine rocked on.
Wow.
So,
and that's what made us love them. That's what makes these what they are, right? Pickup time. V8 diesel pickup time. I'm assured by Travis that, you know, specs do vary for what he can get into the UK legally. So a left-hand drive one of these apparently comes with rubber floor mats and stuff. This is actually quite plush, this right-hand drive Aussie spec. Vela, carpets, you know, rev counter, touchscreen, little tiny 6-inch infotainment system. I mean, it's not really infotainment, I think it's just, it's Bluetooth and a radio. Still got the massively 80s Toyota clock, which I do really like. Of course, body on chassis design, you do get that kind of wobble and stuff, leaf springs still at the back, but it's really comfortable. I mean, these Vela seats are simple, but they are comfy. I'm so impressed with how torquey this engine is. It's going to be interesting to see, actually, how the 4-cylinder of the new generation of this is embraced. Because going from a 4.5 litre turbo diesel V8 to a 2.8 four-cylinder engine is a big drop. Yet apparently the power output's the same. The question mark is longevity. We know this works. Yes, it's a V8. I mean, it sounds pretty. I mean, it sounds very smooth. So we're staring at the legend, the 4.5 litre turbo diesel V8. But I've got to say, this is the thing that fascinates me. These cars are ULEZ compliant, which will make sense if you live in around London. They don't have DPF filters, and you don't need AdBlue.
Nope.
So they are kind of like apocalypse resistant. They are the last of the old school. So if you're looking for something that's the cleanest diesel, the cleanest vehicle, probably not. But in terms of, I guess, longevity, it's that word we keep talking about, this is it.
But we're very lucky at the moment, yeah. We get to have the V8 turbo diesel with no DPF, no AdBlue, nothing really interfering it. With very basic EGR on there. And you get a V8 turbo diesel, you can hong down the motorway and enjoy it. You can put a 3.5 ton trailer. We get to the weights later on in the program.
Yeah, the weight, the towing game is strong.
But yeah, obviously with the Australian spec ones, they have a lot more refinedness. They have a bigger intercooler. They have a DPF added on. They have to have a bigger bonnet to have a bigger intercooler to cool the engine so they don't get too hot.
Yeah.
But they're very much restrained, where these are sort of free running. You know, we're very lucky to have the honour to still be able to put them on the road.
Yeah.
That's why the Australian trucks are a lot more money than these.
I was going to ask you about that. There is a price difference with Aussie spec.
But you're paying for the modern technology, like to have a DPF, the emission, basically all the safety natures, lane assist.
Yes, cruise control.
Cruise control, which you can have fitted to these for around 400 quid. It's not deep amount of money. But you got the difference in price is significant.
How significant?
Like you could have one of these on the road for the same price as the purchase price of one in Australia.
Really? Before it goes on a boat, before it comes off the boat, before it gets VAT added?
Yeah, pretty much.
So this is the double cab. You can buy it as a single.
Yep.
I've seen on your website before. Tell us the really important numbers and figures, because these are quite impressive.
On a double cab, you can fit 1.180, give or take, kg on the back legally, and tow a 3.5 ton trailer with 7,000 train weight. And on the single cabs, you can fit over 1,300 kgs, maybe 1,360, and tow 3.5 ton at the same time with a 7,000 train weight. There isn't another vehicle on the road that's a 4x4 in the UK that can do that.
And are they all, I know the Steely's are 16 inch.
Yeah.
Are these 16s as well?
Yeah, 16 with 265 70 16s.
You are right, 265 70 16s. And all separate body chassis, of course, and leaves at the back still.
Yeah, leaf springs at the back.
Front now.
There is a company called Terrain Tamer. They are very helpful with having parts supplied to the UK, and they do a parabolic setup, which is absolutely amazing.
Parabolic setup.
So you can take away this sort of old technology leaf spring that gets more bouncy down the road, and they have integrated a parabolic system which moves like a modern suspension, so you can just drive with more comfort and more of a modern feeling retro vehicle.
Now, what Travis did say is, in standard form, the diesel, you do need to rev it more than you expect. If you remap it, which a lot of guys do when they get them, apparently it turns it into, it unlocks this monster within and isn't too stressful on the engine. I guess the reason why Toyota downplay it all is because they want that ultra reliability that they're so famed for. In terms of instruments, you do have a rev counter for this particular version, oil pressure, I think, gauge, and all traditional analog needles. But you've also got a voltmeter which goes up to 19 volts, because apparently that means that, obviously, if the alternator fails and it starts overcharging the battery and cooking the battery, you can tell. Should be putting 12, 13, maybe 14 volts in. So that's important when you're in the middle of nowhere and things like alternators might not be easily available. And although we do have a Bluetooth touchscreen thing, we have a manual, electric, telescopic, aerial So it goes up when you turn the car on like they used to in the 80s and 90s, but you can put it down in case you go off-roading. I'm going to put the prices on screen of what they are at present, but values of Land Cruisers move around like blimmin' like gold and the stocks. They're such a precious commodity. So you can get this in short wheelbase if you want. There's hardly any call for it in the UK. And the single cabs, which you can get in real base model, and they come with twin fuel tanks. It's not slow. I've been told it pretty much performs the same whether it's got nothing on the back or several tons. But that's what you'd expect. But now we're at 60, let's do it 60 miles an hour, and it's doing sort of 2250 RPM or something. So you imagine if it had that 1000 RPM drop for a taller fifth gear, then it'd be doing, 1200 RPM rather than 2200, which would make a big difference when you're doing 70 on the motorway. And as a work truck, which is fundamentally what you're going to buy it as, really, with like the best residuals you could probably wish for, what would you go for? Would you go for this or the Ineos Grenadier? Or would you wait for a Defender pickup? You might be waiting for a long time. Or would you spec up a late model old shape Defender to the hilt? I know which one I'd rather drive, this or an old Defender. This. So this is the Series 78.
That's correct.
Right, also known as the Troop Carrier.
This particular model is a VDJ 78, the 78 series Land Cruiser. This is the van style one, troopy for putting troops in, you know.
So from here back it's different.
That's correct.
This part is the same as the pickups.
Yeah.
And basically it's a 2-door, or maybe 4-door, I'll show you in a minute. And it's a commercial vehicle.
It's a commercial vehicle. It can be registered as private or commercial. It's just due to the client's decision. Okay.
And there's a bit of a blank canvas, so because it is a van, but it's not a van.
It's just an open window van. You can be what you want it to be.
Yeah.
It can be a camper, it can be a van.
And campers are popular?
Yes, in the UK, very, very popular. These are mostly imported to purely be campers. The odd 1% might end up being vans.
You were telling me that these, because they're all sliding windows at the back here, aren't they? Just simple.
Yeah. A lot of time they just take these out and you can buy gold wings and they just flip up so they can get to their fridge, get a beer out. Some guys cut little units in here and have a slide out kitchen so you can cook your burgers and steak.
Oh my God.
Reach in, grab a beer while you're watching the kids play.
Oh my God.
It's endless. Yeah.
Well, I said it's either a 2-door or a 4-door. It depends how you look at it. If you come around here, you have a split back end. This should have a spare wheel on it. It's actually in there because it's not been fitted yet because this is brand new. Old school window rubbers with the chrome insert and chrome bumpers. So you open that, that's the door to get in and out of with the recessed step, because this is the only access really for passengers. So it comes as standard as a 7-seat.
It comes as standard as a 7-seater. You can have extra 2 seats in there. It just
an extra 2.
Yeah, you
can. So 3 in the front.
You can actually have an extra 4 seats. It's just with the UK rules and regulations for commercial registration. It's just not worth optioning that.
But it's incredible that you can get a commercial Land Cruiser.
That's correct.
Military spec. That's a 7-seater as standard, and you can choose whether to take them out and just have 3 seats.
Exactly.
If you've ever watched any news report and seen the UN moving around, or the military, it's probably been in one of these. So there's a lot of confusing specs going on with these, but you can only get in the UK the Troop Carrier really as a left-hand drive, unless you want to pay pretty much double. But I think this one's the one that's available to us. And you know what? It looks like a massive car, but when I'm driving it, it's not that massive. It feels like it's got quite narrow shoulders and it's easy to place on the road. So instead of having an RPM counter like the pickup one does, you've got 2 fuel gauges because it has 2 fuel tanks. Each one is 90 litres, 2 9s. That's 180 litres of diesel that you can take on for your expedition. and you press that button there to change to the spare tank. The pickups, the double cab has a single tank, which is 130 litres, and the single cab has the twin tank option. Look down the bonnet, visibility is amazing because it's an old school body shape with thin pillars. Honestly, I can see everything so clearly. And that straight axle leaf sprung suspension at the back, I think this feels okay actually. It feels like a grown up Jimny with a ton of torque. And that's the thing I must say is 5-speed manual. Obviously the 2024 versions of these have gone away from the V8 and have gone away from the manual as standard. And it's going to be quite controversial because they've put the 4-cylinder in, the 2.8 4-cylinder from the Hilux with, I think, additional charge cooling. So this really is the last of the V8s in this body shape, the sort of station wagon and the pickup. I've got Travis in the pickup ahead of me, so it's nice to follow another of the same cars. And actually I've noticed, I forgot to mention this, the track width at the front is different to the back on these Land Cruiser 70 series. The front is 50mm wider, which you don't really notice, apparently, performance-wise and feeling-wise, unless you're driving fast on sand. And then the back starts to wave around a little bit because the back's not following an identical footprint as the front. You can buy staggered wheels to compensate for that. Gear shift is actually really nice, and power steering is quite vague because I'm pretty sure it's got a steering box the same as a Jimny. But the gear shift is really nice, and the pedal feel is good. Seating position, if you like sitting high, you sit immensely high. In fact, I had to ask the guys whether this particular one had been body lifted, suspension lifted, and they said no, this is standard, and it feels high. So if you like your cars high, look no further. Absolutely love the steel wheels.
Yeah, me too.
Entry-level wheels are always the coolest, I think, aren't
and
they?
they're super tall tyres, which keeps the gearing just perfect.
I can't remember the last time I saw a 95 profile tyre, so that does increase the gearing.
Yes, massively.
For that 5-speed.
Yeah. So they, it's hard because you can't rebuy these tyres unless you import them in. So generally when you have a 255 85 16, it kind of sits at the same height as what this would be.
Right.
So we kind of like mark them as what the size would be as a replacement. And then it's not.
Right.
But trying to find them as a replacement, it's like non-existent.
They're amazing. They're amazing. Snorkel, is it standard?
Standard out the factory, yeah. You can option without it, but 99% of them come with snorkels as standard. They're not a snorkel for water, they're a dust snorkel. So they're designed to collect the cleaner air. So if you're following a convoy, then the air is always going to be cleaner higher up. It's quite clever, the technology in that it like coils the air and sort of throws out the dust and brings down the clean air as best as it can.
Can you hear it breathing when you can?
When you accelerate, and you can hear it like as they say. So this is a 1HZ engine.
4.2.
I love these engines. They are 4.2, still mechanical pump. You could be in the most deserted place and have a mixture of diesel and water and oil, and it will still eat it up and spit it out the exhaust and take you back to civilization.
Goodness.
You could have your alternator go and you could still start her. Like you could jack up one wheel and rotate one wheel on a tow rope in second gear with a few friends, and you could get her going in the desert if you couldn't roll start her. This engine doesn't even have a turbo, it's that basic.
Wow, and you can still buy it?
And you can still buy it today. It even has a cable.
Cable throttle?
Yeah.
So this is the proper, like, if it breaks, you can probably repair it yourself?
You can, yeah. There's zero electronics at all.
2024. This really is one of those cars where, because the torque is so massive, and it sounds like the engine is revving high when it's not. It's very deceiving. It could be to do with the cooling fan, but Travis did say to me, you think you'll be revving the nuts off it, but you probably aren't, unless you're on the motorway. And we'll go on the open road in a bit, but fifth gear is often recommended to have an upgrade to make it a higher final drive, basically, because these are geared for, I guess, dirt roads rather than motorways. So the guys offer that as a service, and a lot of people do it straight away. That brings the RPM down by 1,000, which makes a massive difference when you're doing 70 on the motorway, for example, and it makes a big difference to economy, because these V8 4.5 litre turbo diesels will do 20 to 25 mpg usually. He says you can get 30 or above 30 mpg with the 5th gear upgrade. So it hustles along nicely. I mean, obviously I'm driving it unladen. I could have a ton in the back and I could have 3.5 tons on the tow hitch. And I know that it will pull that masterfully. And if you're watching this episode expecting me to go off-road, I'm not going to off-road in this because the Land Cruisers are so well proven at doing that. I don't need to show you doing that. And at the moment, I don't have the facilities to do that. I wanted to see what it drove like on the road. What makes another big difference to the final drive speed is also the height, the profile of the tyres. It means that this definitely revs a little lower overall. You don't get much in terms of well, anything inside really. Rubber floors, velour chairs. The passenger seat is a one piece, albeit I think there's a lap belt for the middle person, so pretty old school. And at the back it does come as a 7-seater as standard. Not bad for a commercial vehicle, right? That is an AM tuner, so you'd almost immediately want to put an aftermarket head unit in it, but it does have the classic Toyota clock, which has been in everything since forever. And really basic analog HVAC, which I've got no problem with. No problem at all. 70. It is brilliant to think that you can still buy these brand new. I mean, this has got like 80 kilometers on the clock, so it's still pretty box fresh. Of course, it defaults to being rear wheel drive. You can select it into 4 high, 4 low. This is a completely different mindset car, remember, to almost anything that's on sale. This is not SUV, don't offend me by saying that. There's nothing sporty about this at all. It's all U and not SU vehicle. You buy this because it's fit for a purpose or multiple purposes. It's a workhorse, a genuine workhorse. It's intentionally lo-fi, so it will last. Brakes are excellent, even though, shock horror, the back of these, drum brakes. Don't you think it's interesting though that Toyota, a car company that's at the forefront of technological advance, the breadth of Toyota as a company, to be still building stuff like these is amazing. A lot of you will think, why is a car like this 70 Series Land Cruiser on sale in the world in 2024? A V8, manual, analog, flat windscreened, 80s interior thing. But I think a lot of people will also appreciate the fact that this is a car that's fit for purpose. You are going to buy this to work and work it hard. But also this is the kind of car that you'll buy and you'll keep for many years because you know it'll last. And it'll be that old school mantra of buying a car outright perhaps and keeping it for 10, 15, even 20 years. And with residuals like this, you know it's a safe bet. But sure, it's not for everybody. I actually think this drove much better than I was expecting, and I would have the Troop Carrier more than every other one. I think that one's the cool one. But what about this? I haven't driven this car in this video. This is the 300 series, as I said. This is the sort of highest end of luxury for Land Cruiser. If you want me to come back and drive one of these, let me know in the comments. What do you think? And also let me know what you think about the 70 series. Is it something you'd ever consider buying? Are you glad that these cars are on sale? I am. Thanks for watching.